Hey everyone, Jason Mudd here. Thank you so much for tuning into this episode of the 502 Leaders Series. I sat down to chat with a very inspiring woman. Her name is Antigona Mehani. She is an immigrant from Kosovo. If you can remember back historically, Kosovo, recall a lot of stuff in the news about, very hostile environment, very war-torn area. And she came to the United States when she was 11. We talk about how her experience as a child and the way that they lived made her grow up so fast. It made her be in a position to take care of her family, and that was amplified even more when she came to the United States, being a child that knew how to speak English, something that a lot of people don't really think about when families immigrate to other countries. A lot of times the children have more language knowledge than the parents, and they become translators, they become guides, they become so much more than just being a kid. Currently, she works as the Director of Development with the American Community Center, which is a nonprofit that provides holistic services to Louisville's refugees, immigrants, and anybody that unfortunately you might think of as an underserved population. A lot of this is youth, and her story is so inspiring to anybody, but especially as kids, because war-torn can mean lots of different things. There are a lot of families that are war-torn domestically here in our city, and everybody's a product of their environment. But kids learn from their parents or people that they're around, and we pass a lot of negative stuff down to our kids. So please listen to this conversation. It started out as something where, we were shooting for maybe 30 minutes to sit down and chat, and it turned into about an hour and a half. It's really, really cool. I appreciate the input, and I'd love some comments if anybody, has had some neat experiences or has anybody in their life that may benefit from hearing this. I'd love a share on this. So thank you so much. Thank you to Yes Working for letting us record at their wonderful co-working facility in the Highlands. And check out more great stuff on yeslouisville.com. Everybody enjoy the show. Serendipity is the phenomenon of finding valuable, agreeable things not sought after. I'm Jason Mudd, and I want to thank you for listening to the Serendipitous channel, an audio experience curated by yeslouisville.com. Enjoy the show and have a great day. Hey everybody, my name is Jason Mudd. This is the 502 Leader Series on the Serendipitous channel, powered by yeslouisville.com. I am really grateful today to sit down with Antigona Mehani.
Yes.
Did I say it right?
You did.
Thank you so much for coming out today. You have kind of a neat career that you're doing. I think you've got kind of a melting pot. You do everything.
I do.
Very entrepreneurish in that sense.
Yeah, and all of this stuff just kind of fell on me. I really didn't seek none of this stuff, but it's funny from what one role led to another. Mm-hmm. So it's like a domino effect in a sense. And I used to go after a career, and I didn't realize the career was actually after me. And it was just weird how it chose me to do what I do now, currently as the Director of Development for Antigona Community Center. But I started my career in the private sector, and then one day, after graduation from University of Louisville, and I had to work for that company for 3 years, and then I one day just literally wrote my resignation letter, and I said, I no longer want to do this. I don't know what came over me. I had no plan B. Something I don't recommend a lot of people to do it. But
does anybody really have a plan B though?
I mean, they don't, and I think
they do.
Right.
They don't.
I didn't, and for me, if I did have a plan B, I don't think I would be where I am now, because then everything that I made the decision to do after that led me to what I have been able to accomplish. So I don't think people should have a plan B. I know it's not probably something that people should take my word for it, but for me, it really led to some really valuable experiences.
I can really equate a whole lot to what you're saying, because failure is not an option. Mm-hmm. Like some people say, like, man, what if it doesn't? Well, it's not good.
Yeah.
There's no other option.
Exactly.
It's just what I'm doing.
Right.
It's just how it is.
Well, and that's the thing is that, that job, the first job that I had really was something that I could probably retire from, but I the moment that I saw my future self in that position, in that role, I realized that that's not who I am. And it was probably, it's like almost a calling. And without option B, C, D, E, I chose to give my 2-week notice, and then 2 weeks later I had no job. And so here I am. What does one person with student loans and an apartment do without a job? Which is something that I don't know what came over me. To this day, I try to find words to describe that moment that led me to leave my job. But I think it all was meant for me to seek opportunities that led to my next employment, and that was to work with refugees. I wrote to the Kentucky Refugee Ministries, which is right behind us. Yeah. And I said, all I want to do, I just want to give back. I had this sudden drive and this passion that just came over me. I was like, I just want to be able to help someone, and I thought I was writing an email to volunteer. Next thing I know, that led to an interview, to a position where I was leading a team of 10, all younger than me, who at this point were pretty much in charge of these refugees who were coming to our city, and we were making life-changing decisions on their behalf. So here I am talking to a family of 10, and I'm saying, you have to go to work this time, you have to do this schedule, and I'm kind of like the guidance counselor at this point. And I realized that this is bigger than me. I'm actually making decisions that could impact not just this person, but the whole family and their children, and then the future. So it's where I really got to learn what our community needs, and that's why that everything just kind of fell on me and made me realize that I have to do what I have to do in order for me to make a small impact. And if this is my route to do it, then I have to start. And from then, with my team, we were able to find jobs, find resources, navigate the system here, and really things that we often take for granted. Within the 4 years that I was there, we ended up helping over 4,000 refugees find employment.
That's awesome.
We did the numbers, and we realized how much of an impact economically these newcomers were making to the city. And that's when we thought, okay, we need to now advocate, because the city is completely changing as a result of these our new neighbors. Not only they were contributing by going to work now, but they're buying homes, they're buying cars. So you have this cycle of purchasing, and that's something that Louisville wasn't seeing as much in the past. And then we saw the numbers, and we were astounded to find out that by employing over 1,000 people a year, we potentially will see the $5 million coming back to the city as a result. So that's why the advocacy piece became such an important part of my job and my life, that I now had this data that I was able to share, not just with the city, but the community leaders and members, and really shed light why refugee resettlement was so important to our city. And it really changed neighborhoods. It changed, I lived in the Highlands for the last 10 years, and you see a drastic change in businesses and international businesses, and talking about gastronomy. I mean, we've happened to have probably one of the best restaurants owned by refugees and immigrants. So
absolutely,
it all is a domino effect, and that's as a result of people, being resettled here, but having these agencies and these community centers as a resource. And it's really more of a beacon of like point of contact. Like, hey, I can go to this place and get help, and then I can so I don't have to be relying on, state or federal resources. And that's what our goal was, to make sure that whoever needed our help had a resource. And that was by getting a job, getting the kids to good schools, and just, it's really all the things that come into it as a family when they go to a new country, a new home.
Oh, and it's absolutely amazing the output and impact that people make. And, you hear in the news and the media, and there's so much negative talk about immigrants and refugees, but you know what? We're all immigrants at some point.
Yeah.
And if you give people the right tools and some love and some support, people want to produce. People don't want to be stagnant. People don't want to be lazy. I mean, that's not, people want to do good things, but when it's so difficult and it's such an uphill battle in so many points, it's like we cause our own problems in so many aspects. We really
do. And that's why it was so important for us to spread the right message and let people know that no one is taking anyone's job, no one's taking anyone's resources.
We're creating
things. We're filling the gaps. And I use the word filling the gap because that's one of the things that I used to see in my position is these employers coming to me and says, we cannot get enough people or the right, workforce. It's just, we really appreciate the hard work that the refugees and the immigrant population bring, that we were able to see noticeable outcomes in our company as a result. So then it became so easy for us to not just make an argument, but to actually say no, because of what we're doing, where we're giving them tools. And the thing is that we actually got more back from them than we actually gave. And that whether it's, monetary or time, when we kind of put everything together and saw the numbers, we realized that by having, our new refugees and immigrants coming to our city, that the city was making money. And that's one notion that a lot of people were just not aware, or maybe lack of not getting the right information, and lack of education tends to bring hate and negative, perspective on why.
Well, and then negative headlines catch attention.
Exactly, and people like to click negative, that subject, that headline, the moment they see taking something from us, and that's what we notice is that how do we combat those negative factors that are being played out, because it spreads. Good news, it's kind of hard to spread it on as fast as what negative or bad news.
Isn't it funny how people will question good news? Like, that can't be true, but something that's absolutely horrific and horrible, it's like, boom, that's getting shared. We're telling everybody about this. It's crazy.
And that's
wrong. That shouldn't be that way.
And that's why I think this new, I call it this new, not to say position, but what people were feeling who were in this work is finally decide to stand up and talk about it and say, no, it's not true. And now you had a conversation in a household, perhaps. This is 2015, in the climax of political...
Stuff changes so quick.
So,
it's amazing.
Yeah, and so now, finally, people found the courage to speak up because they saw the truth and they were in the work. And now you're like, well, that's not true. It is my duty to actually whether correct you or give you the right information. And that's what I feel like these community centers and resettlement agencies does, is it gives you the information so that you don't have to truly make things on your own and believe that this is what's happening in your community.
It's amazing how much is assumed in so many instances, and you're absolutely right. Education is everything, and you don't know what you don't know, and fear drives so much stuff, and then you get a toxic media environment that just tries to, there's an agenda with everything with regards to that. But let me back up a little bit and start. So, where are you from?
So, a little bit about myself. I was born in Kosovo, a very small country in part of the Eastern Europe, which is more than the Balkans area.
Is Kosovo near the Ukraine at all?
No, it probably would be further down.
Okay.
Yeah, and I usually never talk about my story because I used to talk about it, but that was back 20 years ago, and I was not received well. So that made me realize that not everyone wants to know my story, so I'm not going to share it. Then I decided that I'm fine. I grew up. I kind of like learn how to navigate the system here, and so how do I now help the next person that was in the same shoes? And that's been my journey, is helping people that's been in the same situation that I was. And
I mean, I cannot imagine the fear of, for whatever reason, somebody's moving to a new country. Just the fact of going to a new country, different language, different culture, different. That's scary.
Oh, it's challenging, and it's scarier when you don't have any support, and then now you're not. And I want to say, 21 years ago, Louisville was not the same as it is now.
5 years ago, Louisville was not the same.
Right, I know, and I can even do a comparison.
Yeah.
I mean, by size and by the people that feel, now how they feel towards refugees and immigrants and everything that's happening. Because though I did look what my classmates look like, which I, didn't have a physical, difference. I was told to go back to where you come from, and, the term alien, certainly came up a lot.
That's such a weird, I always thought that's such a weird term. Why would people, where did that come from? I often wonder where things get started.
Exactly, because the actual alien, to call someone an alien, that's just, it's a whole nother level.
Alien has an unwelcome visitor connotation.
Exactly. And so as a kid, here I am, and I know what alien meant, so I took that to heart. And I said, what's wrong with me?
Words are so powerful.
Words are powerful.
So, you look at, I've struggled with different, I struggled with alcoholism for a while.
Yeah.
And I came to realize that, and I don't mean to trampoline too much, but stuff like that is a symptom, and it comes from something that you're trying to fill a gap in it. And more often than not, words that somebody said to you became a belief in yourself. About yourself.
Very much, yeah.
And that's a very, very real thing, and it can be such a simple thing that maybe the person saying it doesn't even think about.
Oh, and it stays with you. I mean, here I am at age 11, and
you're already vulnerable because you're
right. I'm suddenly coming from a war where I was 2 weeks before. I was just in a surviving, mode, and then here I am, and they're like, "Yeah, but you get to go to school now." And I'm like, "I don't want to go to school. I'm an adult now because what has happened to me during the war. I grew up really quick, so school was not something I wanted to do. I was like, I'm ready. I take care of my family. Yeah. I'm 11 years old right now, and I'm already taking care of my parents, and I'm like the main point of contact for language, and so I was like, what school? I've already have it in my mind. I was like, and keep in mind, my school was cut off at grade 5th, so I had missed 5th, 6th, 7th. So for me, kind of time became linear, so I really didn't know how to move forward. I thought you just kind of just go day by day and just find the next surviving. It was a mechanism.
That's an interesting mentality. You're not even thinking of the future. You're just like, we're just going to go today.
Today. It was just daily plan. I never thought about what I would be, when I grow up, or I didn't have plans. I didn't make plans. I think that's as a result of experiencing the brutal war, because you don't think about the future. Now you're just going to think, how do I survive the next minute or the next few hours? And so they really, when I was told that I need to go to middle school and they had to test me, they're giving me a pencil, and that has been probably in 3 years since I have actually touched a paper and a pencil. And I'm like, what do you want me to do with this? I don't know how to do this stuff, And they're like, no, you have to test yourself here. Luckily, I did have the language skills. I think that's probably what helped me throughout my educational journey.
You were able to use English?
Yeah, I did, because I used to watch a lot of
Well,
TV back
like
home.
A blessing and that's a big bit of privilege right there that you kind of keep in yourself.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I don't think we could have made it because we didn't have any support system here. So we didn't understand, my parents didn't understand what was going on. So I had to really grow up. I mean, I always talk about how refugee children tend to kind of be the parent in the family when they move. I mean, this was. I'm now the grand.
You go shopping. You're the navigator.
I am exactly, and so that's
you ain't a kid anymore.
Right? No, I no longer. I didn't want to play with the kid stuff. I just assumed that this is my life now. I just take care of my family, my parents, and they're like, "Oh no, you gotta go to school because if you don't go to school, your parents get in trouble." And I'm like, "What do you mean my parents get in trouble? It's my choice." So that's. And it's not like I hated school. I just didn't know, I couldn't process that. I was still in that, where I was trying to survive. Mm-hmm. I think mentality, and I never got help for it. And that's the thing about, survivors that experience traumatic, events. If you don't get help right away, yes, you can kind of put that behind your back, your back of your brain, but it comes back and it never goes away if it doesn't get treatment right away. And so here I am. I'm already now in a different, mindset, and I'm just I gotta take care of my family. I've got to learn how to do this, get in our apartment, and now they're like, "Oh yeah, slow down. You gotta go to school."
How many members were in your family?
5. So we were, I got my sisters and both my mom and dad. My brothers were not with us at that time, and I'm the youngest. So when I grew up really fast, but I skipped a bunch of years mentally and just became the oldest right away because of how much I was needed by my parents and my family. And so school was the last thing that I wanted to do. But, once I remember, in fact, the building that I took my first sort of exam or test is just right behind is the church. Mm-hmm. And I'll share a really quick story because when I got that job at KRM, Kentucky Refugee Ministries, the building that I took the test is just right across from the church. Yeah. And I walked by that building now for 5 years. I would walk and I would see that basement and that chair I sat on at age 11 when I took my first test. And they told me, "Oh, you did really well, surprisingly. Now you get to go to 8th grade." And 2 weeks later, they just dropped me off at middle school with zero resources, and I'm just now, a student. I go to school, and that was difficult because I remember filling out some paperwork, and it was not just the situation that I had to go to school. It was just how uninformed people were, and I remember filling some paperwork, and I asked my teacher what this part of it meant, and he said, "Well, this is your race." And I said, "Okay, I grew up without knowing what race was." So it's well, are you white? Are you black? Are you brown? Are you this? So he's asking me all these colors, and I'm looking at my skin, and I'm like, this is weird because I've never.
Why do I have to have a label?
Why do I have to label? Exactly, right? And I can't believe, and I was like, well, can you
talk about problems that we create for ourselves?
Exactly. And that never escapes me. I go back and think about this teacher who asked me if I actually was, I think, a different race. And then that's when race really got into my head really quick, and I realized what a big issue it is in this country. And then even though I could identify as a white Caucasian because I'm from, Europe, and, this is where it all originated, and I'm like, why is such a big deal? I'm just another kid. And then the names start to come, and that was the alien, and go back to where you come from, and you don't belong here, and you're taking this and you're taking that. And so that lasted for a while until I realized that I could stand up for myself. And then once I gained that confidence. And
what was the turning point you kind of flip that switch? I'm curious.
I think it was when they start talking about how...
Did you get so pissed off about it?
It's I couldn't even get pissed off anymore. I found that it's just lack of not knowing, like they just were not... Then I realized that in school, they really don't teach you much about geography and where continents are. And at this age, I mean, even when I was in second, third, fourth grade back home, I was learning where continents are, what languages each continent spoke, and I knew more about geography and history of our world than someone of a U.S. history teacher here. Mm-hmm. The equivalency, and that's when I realized that it's not their fault, it's just a lack of education that's provided to the students here. And then you have teachers who actually can pinpoint where certain countries are. Then I was like, if teachers don't know this, then how can I expect students to know? So I no longer took it serious. I mean, it didn't affect me. It really, I think I had already built that thick skin, and I started to find studying was my escape, and so I did, pretty well in school, and now I was creating goals, and I wanted to achieve them, so nothing was going to stop me, and that's why I kind of stepped away from that mentality of taking things to heart and allowing them to hurt me, and because. I mean, those could be dangerous. Those could be definitely triggering your mental state.
Big time.
And so I didn't want to go there. I didn't want to go to that dark space that I knew I could
That's
go.
That's a lot of self-awareness.
Yeah. I think it's a result of me experiencing what I had experienced and just kind of, growing up really fast is learning my surroundings and quickly adapting to it. So I was able to adapt.
So I'm curious, when you came in and you're going to school, what was the experience like for your parents and for the rest of your family? I mean, did they...
not easy. I think back now and I think how much we have achieved, my family and my siblings. But it meant that my parents had to give up everything to provide for us. So taking jobs that, you come here with a degree and the next thing you know, well, that doesn't mean anything here now. Now you go work.
It's great. Like a doctor will come.
Yeah.
I have a friend of mine, a doctor friend, that came from Georgia and went through medical school and he was telling me about the selection process for being able to immigrate here to the US. It was absolutely insane.
Oh, it's...
I mean, insane for me, and I can't imagine for him going through it.
Right.
And
it really takes a toll mentally, and if you're not prepared to deal with that, it could really be... It's no longer worth it now, but our situation was a little different because we had come in under refugee status.
War-torn there.
But here my dad used to be an engineer back home, and then when they come here, they're like, "Well, you gotta go to work after 3 months because you have to pay your bills, you have to pay rent," and the jobs that they had available. Well, keep in mind, my parents didn't speak their language, so. Physically, they were able to work, but what could they do physically in America? It's usually jobs that, are in manufacturing or warehouse or hospitality. So,
you have that language barrier issue, and then immediately you have that judgment from the other side, and the engineer never gets the chance to show what they know. It's crazy.
And then you just kind of because there's no time, the time is not on your side. Now in 3 months that's how much support you get when you come to America, whether it's federal money or local state assistance.
You get 3 months?
3 months,
really?
yeah.
That's it?
Then you're on your own.
Wow.
So they're expecting a family, and I'll give you a good example of a refugee family that would be here with 10 children, which is very common. And usually one parent couldn't work because of, whatever happened to them.
So they gotta take care of the kids.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But they're this person was obviously, whether we're talking about education or not able to work, and they're well, you gotta make this much money to pay your rent, pay your bills, and there's no jobs that support that. And so you have now a new problem. It's just created within seconds of as soon as they can work, or they could, but the wage was so low that how is one person expected at $8.50 or even less to support a family of 7 or 6 or 8 with a rent of $900?
Right.
So you thought you went through hell during the war, but it's a whole new issue.
It's a different kind of hell. It's like a slow death almost, kind of a hell.
And you're safe. I mean, we're not going to take that for granted. You're safe now. I mean,
we're not going to get hit by a bomb,
right?
But it's going to be cold, and
so you have this whole new slew of issues that you're like, how? And then some of this stuff is so new concept for a lot of people. A lot of people grew up with no bills in different countries. You don't pay for a home because you already have a home that's paid.
Right.
This.
You leave all the investment that your family and the generations have built up.
And it's
when you're coming from a European country, it's not like America where you've got 300 years of something. You've got thousands of years.
So
of
it's
history.
like exactly. So I never knew you have to pay. I knew about paying like electricity and things that the smallest things, and you're like. It's just really hard to comprehend for a lot of people that have not been exposed to the Western world. And that's probably the biggest challenges a lot of people face. But my parents were both educated, and, we came from a country that we had, I remember coming the first few months, we had people that would volunteer their time to help us and, navigate the resources. And one of the person asked if I ever ate a watermelon, and I thought he was just asking like if I had watermelon as I came here. And I'm like, no. If you ever saw a watermelon in your country, and I was like, well, yeah, I didn't exactly come from, like that's the misconception that people had is that it's such a weird nature of how people feel. And yes, I didn't think that it was hurtful, but I just thought, now this person thinks I'm from a jungle or something, Well,
it's the same thing of like people view people from Kentucky as not wearing shoes.
Yeah, right.
And stuff like that. But not the same, but kind of the same.
And so things like that. And it made me realize, well, my parents were both, my dad was an engineer. Now he's working for $550, I think 21 years ago is how much it was. And really working hard, waking up early. I remember I would go wait to the school bus and I would see him wait for Tark in the cold. It was when it was snow, when it would rain, and
just doing whatever he
wanted to do. There was no question asked. And that's why I admire my parents. I don't think I could do that now. Like now, you know what I mean? Like something was to happen and I had to take my family and go to a new country.
You probably know in the back of your mind that
I
you're
know,
just going to do
like,
whatever you
right,
do.
exactly. But I'm thinking this was so hard. I don't know how they did it, and so
that's where you're grateful that you don't have to, I guess.
Right, but then I feel like I never thanked them enough. And now that they're both retired and we take care of them, and they travel and they build a good life for us, I realized how much they had to give up just so that we can have an opportunity to get education. And so for me, once I was at a point where I was able to give back, I had to go back to my roots and where I came from and be a support system for people that needed me. And it just felt natural. I didn't even have to think twice.
That's your purpose.
It's it really is. I always say I never knew this was what was going to be with my future. I told you earlier, I never planned. I didn't exactly have I see now, I hear my nieces and nephews and I ask them what they want to be when they grow up. I never had anyone ask me that because my childhood was trying to survive bullets and bombs. So no one asks you if you in 20 years, what are you going to be? So now, and they I'm going to be a doctor, I'm going to be a police officer. I never had those dreams. I wasn't allowed to build them. So it's not my fault. I just didn't have the time to timing was not on my side.
Man, that is something to be grateful for. Having the, I don't even know how you would.
Do you know what I mean? Like
having the space to think about the future.
Yeah,
I mean,
you don't have that space, and I don't talk about that a lot. But that's what people who go through really awful things in life don't have that space to think about what they want to be, their plans. You know, never did I have a thought in my mind. Oh, you know, I'm gonna go to concerts. I'm gonna do this with my friends. That's not what my brain was. There
wasn't like, you know, fun time. You're not thinking of
No. Wow. So that's why I'm built differently. You know, a lot of people see me and they're like, I don't know how you do it. You know, it's just because I think my brain has been trained at such a young age to handle difficult situations that nothing now, I mean, obviously I've been exposed to more traumatic experiences here. It certainly is not a big deal now for me because I can easily manage to really make sure that I don't allow myself to go to that space. And that's as a result of really what happened to me at such a young age is that it really built character, you know. Well, talking about character and strength and just building that mentality that you don't take no for an answer and you don't give up. I mean, giving up is just not something that and I even instill this in my team now. I'm lucky that I get to lead a good, you know, team, whatever position I had. But one thing I've learned in America is that kids too tend to give up really easy here. Mm-hmm. It's like the first no they hear, oh, it's a no, I'm done, my life is over, you know?
That's exactly, it's a catastrophe. It's the worst thing in the world.
Yeah. They get to this school,
my daughter, I've got a 7-year-old daughter, and it's like, no, it's just going to keep going on.
Well, same thing
There's going to be another no tomorrow.
Yeah. Same thing with, new generation that I see now, and I said, my goodness, I can't believe they will take this no and just go with it and move on and never learn that you can go back and fight, or you can go back and ask, and you can try to do this again, and you can stand up again if you fall. And so I do believe in failure because I think it teaches you how to get up and get up stronger. And so, and that's something that when the work that I do now requires a lot of this strength and this not believing that just because you failed once and that's it. You know, it's more like, hey, I failed once because it taught me something. It's time to come back, and we're gonna come back stronger. We're gonna try it this way, I have this phrase that I go back and use. It's from Hannibal, and it says, "I will either find a way or make one." Mm-hmm. You know, and so that has led me to really be able to accomplish all these things that I was able to do, and these acknowledgments that I got really is not as a result of me doing the work. For me, I see it is that they acknowledge that I didn't give up, and that's a prize in itself. Is my mentors, my friends, whoever was there for me, recognize that, and recognize that you can succeed despite challenges and barriers, and boy, did I have barriers, and I don't talk about it enough because now I'm focusing on other people, so my story is not relevant, but it's not, I don't want to take the space of other people because
but it's important.
But it's important though, and I try to use myself as an example, and I've learned to lead by example. So I'm hoping, when I would meet young refugee students or immigrants or just any young students, and I talk about my situation and what I had to go through, and I said, I'm not here to talk about my success. I'm just here to say, hey, this could happen to you, should this happen to you, there are avenues and steps you can take to actually be able to come back from that. And so that's been my message. It's like, I want someone to come and say this to me, because of you, I didn't give up. And that's been my mission in life, is just to mentor and be there for people, and just say, hey, I've watched your story, I've learned something from you, and as a result, this happened to me, but I didn't let that get to me. It's like I was able to fight it. I was able to get up and fight, and find support, and find the strength, and find the mentorship, which I strongly believe everyone should, have, and come out of it successfully. And life itself is a challenge. So if you have...
Life is hard enough, but don't make it harder.
But don't make it harder, exactly. Yeah. So a lot of people do that to themselves.
Well, we try. I think a lot of, I know I'm guilty of this, of trying to do everything myself. I know everything myself. And one of the best lessons that I've learned, you talk about mentors and stuff, is having people that you do stuff with, and nobody does anything alone. Like these self-made people. Nobody's self-made. Nobody did anything by themselves.
I always say it takes a village to raise.
It takes a huge village
to raise someone, and I think I wanted to be in that village, and I think as a result, that's why I stay in these opportunities that I am, and that's why my life has been in public service now and giving back, is because I know what it takes to get someone on the other side of failure, and I want to be part of that group, or that leading pack of impacting these young people. And that's why every job that I had has given me the sort of the opportunity to talk to these young people and say, look, is it hard out there? Yeah. Is it going to be very difficult? Absolutely. But then I want to share stories, not just my story, but stories that I am faced with the people that we serve, and say, look, if they can do it, so can you, And so, that's what I think this compassion that I have built within helping people that need our help, has been as a result of recognizing, that in people. And I know that it takes everyone. If we want to live in a good community, we all complain what's happening around our communities and in our city.
But the people that are complaining aren't doing anything.
And they're doing anything. Exactly.
So, and everybody's role is important.
It's so important. I always...
Yeah, everybody matters. If the trash doesn't get picked up,
I know.
That's a big problem. Right. That's one of the biggest problems. You can go down the line for anything.
Exactly.
Every single role.
And so then I feel like the people that have built some platform and they have a following, and this is just an advice to everyone who call themselves community builders and leaders, if you got that following now and that platform that you build, that people do listen to you, use that to build your community. Don't try to bring it down, focus on what I call the negative traits, because every community has that. But if we focus on combating those issues, I'm built on there's two types of people. There's people that blame the problem, and there's people that find the solutions to the problem. So I do not want to be associated with people that just constantly, they recognize the problem, but instead of finding solutions,
they just like to talk about the problem.
They just talk about the problem, and therefore
because talking about the problem gets them attention.
But don't realize that it's actually, if you're smart enough to recognize that something is not good, and why can't you find, ways and solutions to actually figure that out? But the moment you ask them to do that, they're like, oh, no, it's not my job. I cannot make a difference. I'm just one person. And that's the misconception that everyone has, is that I'm one person, my vote, my voice does not matter, does not make an impact. And that's something that I will probably die trying to explain that that's not the case, especially when
if everybody said, I don't matter, then you're right. You don't.
Even
You
better.
know, and that's that thing. Whether you can or you can't, whether you think you can or you can't, you're right.
Right.
You know, and people can move mountains. I mean, people can move mountains. And when you talk about like inspiring people and changing people's mentality, it comes from the most unassuming places at the most unassuming times. And like, I'm sure I can't imagine the countless things where you have written off, you know, scenarios and situations, but somebody else has taken so much from something that you've done or said.
Yeah, and it's like years later I find that out, and then I'm given, and it's feedback that's so important to me because it makes me realize, it's working. I guess it worked. I should continue. I shouldn't give up because, you know, everyone is a human and everyone goes through challenges.
How many times did you, going through your journey and doing this, did you think, man, I'm not making any difference. This isn't working. It's not working. I'm just going to give up. I'm just going to stop.
I'm not going to lie. It's probably like almost, if not every day.
And that's a self-doubt that everybody has.
It's a self-doubt, and it's okay to have that. You don't have to listen to it. I think it's important to have that because it teaches you how you can.
Now, you can't be an idiot and do like just stuff that's off the. You know,
exactly.
Obviously.
Yeah. But there is times where you're like, I feel like I've given so much and I just don't see the end result. Because we're so used to seeing instant gratification, and when we don't see that, we're like, well, nothing I did made a difference. Right. So that mentality can really be hurtful and really can change your mindset for future investment. And so I try to stay away from that, where I say, well, I did this and I thought I helped people, but nothing, it made no difference. I don't know that. How much?
You don't know
exactly, right?
Yeah.
So it's just called assumption, and we do that a lot.
And nobody talks about the good things.
No, we don't, because
people just complain.
We like to complain because it's easier.
Or they've taken for granted the good things that have come about.
But then there's going to be one or two person who's going to come years later, and I shared a story on Facebook the other day because it just was so meaningful. How 5 years later, this family was looking for me because she said, I remember every single thing you said. I remember the smile, your hug, your warmth, the way you made me feel. It was my first 2 days in America. I was afraid. I was sad for my family, but you made it a little easier for me, and for that I will never forget. But that was the smallest thing that she could point. She's like, then you also helped my husband get a job, and he's still in the same job, and then now we're buying a home because you told me, you know, so all these things. And I'm like, this is 5 members of the family that I made, because of what I did and what I said at that time, made an impact. So then it made me think, okay, how dare do I think about giving up when I have people that still need me, you know? I'm not a surgeon, so I'm not saving lives, but sometimes these words and this encouragement go a long way. I always say that, you know, public service and whatever work you're doing, that you're giving something back without anything in return, you're changing a life. No matter what. You may not see it now or tomorrow, but I promise you in 10, 15 years, and that's okay. And it's supposed to be like that. That's the effect of helping someone, is that it's not, no one can change the world in one day or change. People want, again, I always go back to instant gratification because it's such a bad notion that it's been developed of people. I want to help you, but I want to see the difference right now, right here. Well, you're never gonna see that. So they stop before they even think about helping someone or whether they're donating. They talk themselves, yes, and because now they think they're not gonna see that result or that outcome, and that's something.
Well, then who are you doing this for? You're doing it for you to feel good?
Exactly. Yeah, I call it white knight savior syndrome, where...
Oh, I like that. Yeah.
It's very much alive, where I
mean, I don't like that. That's not what I mean.
But you know, it's the way to describe what people do when they feel that urge to help, but they want that, like, instant, look, I
gotta get something out of it.
I gotta get something out of it.
I gotta put it on the gram, if nothing else.
Yes. And so then I want to change that narrative. I want to change that you're never going to change anything with that mentality. And that's something that people don't realize that's becoming bigger issues now. And why we're not seeing as much of a change in trending is because people are doing for the gram, or doing for Facebook posts.
People are not doing it for their own experience or for their own joy.
We see this so much at the end of the year for the homeless population. Everyone suddenly now is volunteering.
They're taking boatloads of socks and stuff down, and they're dumping it on the side of the road, and they're thinking now there's just a bunch of crap on the side of the road.
Exactly. So this whole time they see them driving by, they're walking by, and they're probably thinking all sorts of things that's not true, because we all have this language we build towards the people that are in a homeless situation. As someone told me not to call them homeless, people that are in that don't have a home right now, which was really good way for me to separate the term that we come up with to label people. And so people will say, well, I helped in a soup kitchen, I helped serve, and that's great. One day, okay, we appreciate you taking a couple hours out of your day. But what about the next day and the next day and next day? So that's something that
July, they're still there in July.
It's still July, exactly right. Do you see anyone in
thirsty in July?
Right, just in December or in November for the and so I want more stories and writings and talks and whatever we need to have to change this idea that people do need our help. It's just the way our world is and the way that we build our communities. We build them for some people to not have a home. And, we all know that homeless is a man-made problem, and so
there's a lot of, homeless is a funny thing. And I've done homeless outreach. There's a couple of nonprofits that I've done where we've gone pretty continuously doing cold weather outreach. But I've seen so many instances of choice for homelessness, and it's not as cut and dry as what people what people think it is.
It's very much a choice on their end, and I think that's I've wanted to read a book. It's called Evicted, and someone recommended that I read that book because I'm really interested in what's happening with the homeless. And there's always been books and journals and research why it happens, but every year I feel like there's a new factor that comes in, and as a result, that's why this family is homeless, or as a result, that's why this young person is homeless. So, not even to go into opioids and drug abuse, or domestic violence that happens in homes, but it always feels like every year there's a new factor that is making an introduction into our society, and is changing the way that we see building a home, who lives in a home, has the home, the propaganda that in America that used to be built on 1960s, I think, or 1950s, were white picket fence with a mom and dad, a dog, and two families.
The beaver thing, I like, 1950s television was propaganda for the American dream life.
And we now see that it was never like that. And if you notice, none of this were actual images, they're actually paintings, because it didn't exist. And I learned this.
That's interesting. I never thought about that. Yes, you're right.
Yeah, I've learned this.
Didn't have
images.
This is a vision of what somebody wanted.
It's a vision. What someone said, I want neighborhoods to look like this. And then that's when you got this completely new lifestyle that actually never existed. People still lived. There were still different color of people. There was still different, whether people didn't have money, people were struggling, people were homeless, but no one painted that picture as a picture they painted with a nice white home with white picket fence. grilling hot dogs, a typical image of what, and what a family should look like.
Well, like we have like here in Louisville, like you have a planned community like Norton Commons.
Oh,
that's a planned community. But if you back up to the founding of kind of this country, it's almost like let's go make a planned country, and this is how whoever was the back. I'm not saying that it's the guys that signed that declaration or anything, but because there was probably a board of people behind them that made those decisions.
It's all like a blueprint of how life should be, and then they didn't realize that you cannot plan people's life.
And then somebody said history is just a lie agreed upon.
Yeah.
And
much so.
And so it's very interesting. Like you talk about that sort of like what you're taught and what kids are taught, and we're all products of our environment. And I don't mean to trampoline, but I keep going back like to the beginning when we started talking, and you didn't have an idea of race as a kid. And I'm thinking like, how much we perpetuate just this cycle of crap.
We
to our
really
kids.
love awful things. I almost feel like we thrive on it. Like people love to see things that's just harsh and not good stories. Not good stories are boring. Like successful stories are boring. It's so hard to find that.
Well, I think now you're getting into people are telling the better stories in a good way.
Okay,
Like maybe it's just easier to tell a negative story salaciously and get attention.
Right.
It's harder to tell a good story, but I truly feel like there's a raising of consciousness, a raising of awareness, and I think there's a little bit of a turn that people are making.
And I would be wrong to say that it's not the case. Do I want a faster turnaround? Yes, and that's just me personal, because I think I'm a little tired of having to educate.
It's like the same thing. It's like Grandma Day.
Yes, but I'll take what I can get, and if it takes certain people to carry this message and talk about it, then we should,
Well, people forget, that people forget, and when things are going good, you forget even faster.
Oh yeah.
I mean, it's kind of funny how stuff like pain is a part of the game. Pain is a part of you can't grow without pain. You can't. I think about times in my life like when things are great, I'm an idiot. I mean, I'm on autopilot. I'm not. So it takes instances of struggle. I think, and I'm grateful for the struggles that I've had to do, and I can't, nothing, just different, just totally different. Everybody's
struggles it's what shapes them, what makes them to what now they're called human beings. I do want to point out that everyone has a story to tell.
Everyone has a story, and I don't know if you've ever thought about this, but like, you know about like definitions and defining and labeling and stuff, and I have thought about this a whole lot. When you put a label on something, more often than not, people become that. More, where they might not have been that before, but now you're putting that on them, and now I'm this.
Now
I'm going to be this, and then however society has defined that label, now I'm in this box. And
they put you in the box, and because now you're in a situation where whether you believe that person or that person has some impact on you, it's such a dangerous dynamic from this person not to believe, because let's say we call someone stupid. Well, if you continue to call that person stupid, it's like telling the fish, that it can climb the tree. What's that?
I don't.
Do you know what I'm talking about?
I know what you're talking about. I can't think of
it's
the
going to
exact
think that
analogy.
he can, climb the tree, which is giving a wrong
false hope.
False hope, yeah. And it's. I wish we did better at that. And you know, as people that, if, again, I go back to having that platform and having a message to share, and whatever you're doing in life, you do matter to someone else. So.
Well, you know, there's so much coming from having and realizing your purpose in life.
Mm-hmm.
And unfortunately, I see so many people that just seem like they're existing. And when you have, and I'm just saying hypothetically, let's say you have parents that don't really know what they're doing. They're just existing.
Mm-hmm.
Now their kids are getting the message of existence rather than purpose. And maybe those kids will get inspired by some third party and they'll figure something out. But
I'm glad you mentioned the third party, because this is where community centers come in. They're the third party, because you've got parents at home and you've got school, and then there's that side, which is the community center, which they can come after school, and that's the third part. That's where we see the impact of a younger generation being made, because if it didn't go well at home, well, now they're so tired in school that they're not even going to barely do it, but now this third choice, they're meeting these people who are actually care about them, who are helping them in school, maybe even do better at home. So this is not the umbrella, this is not the support. And that's when we see the change happen with a younger generation who are coming from, I don't want to say broken homes, but homes that maybe mom and dad are working really hard and they don't have the time to pay attention to the children and what they're doing in school. Or
it's always the people are being bad parents. It's just that they don't have the time. They're trying to survive.
They're constantly in the surviving mode, and that's dangerous. It's dangerous for newer generation, because you're building a mentality that I'm just gonna, have no room to.
I'm curious about this too, because I have grown into, as awareness and consciousness and everything, the abundance mentality rather than the scarcity, and you go back to like people having the opinion of somebody taking something away from them rather than just there's plenty out there, and it's only a scarcity when you think it's a scarcity, but how many people think that stuff is a scarcity and they're operating on that every day? That is such a stressful way to live.
Oh, it
really is
completely a self-made.
It is completely self-made.
Self-made.
We're doing it to ourselves.
Doing it to yourself,
And you can't tell people that, because nobody will accept that. And that's that realization you have to come to on your own. And for me, I think you can only come to that by seeing other people living in that other way. You have to see people.
So that's when being
operating.
exposed to society that, because a lot of people say, "Well, it's not in my backyard. Why should I care? I'm not going to go extend that in my backyard. I'm not going to look above the." And so that's what I think the message that we need to start talking about is: do reach out. Reach out to a community. If you have the time, I have this mindset that if you have $1, you have 50 cents to spare. So it's not just all about me, and I want this really nice lifestyle. Great, but then if you're gonna just focus on yourself and you're not, I don't want to say share, but help.
Money doesn't mean anything if you're not doing anything with it.
Exactly.
Resources don't mean anything.
Nothing.
If
Some
they're
people
being hoarded and if they're just being
stockpiled. Yes.
Stuff like that only works when you use it.
I really feel like that people don't realize that you can invest in people and
output. People is the only thing that defies physics.
Yes.
The output, you put two people together and you get an exponential output.
Yes.
Nothing else works that way.
They think that, I don't want to give money to something or to someone. And they don't realize that, my goodness, if you just invest, let's say you mentor a child, like a young kid.
Oh my gosh.
You are creating, I want to say, whether it's a doctor, a lawyer, or a scientist, you're really building someone.
You inject self-esteem into somebody.
Yes.
And you can give them the best gift that they've ever given in the world.
Right.
And that only takes some attention, and some time. It
Yeah,
doesn't. Anybody can do it.
Anyone can do it.
Yeah.
You don't have to have money.
No.
You do not have to have a lot of money.
In fact, it's probably better if you don't have a lot of money.
Right.
Because if you have a lot of money, your first thing is just going to be to throw some money at it.
Yes.
And that's the worst
So
thing.
that's...
Money doesn't...
Money
isn't real. It's not,
and that's another thing that I hear a lot is that, I don't have money. Again, I don't have money. I'm one person. It doesn't matter what I think. It doesn't matter what I do. Those are so dangerous.
That's the broke mentality.
This is such a dangerous mindset to have for anyone, not just people who want to help. It's just that don't think that. Don't think that you vote. People don't vote. That's one thing they'll say. The first thing that people, when you ask why they don't vote, so they're going to say, my vote doesn't matter. And it's really hurtful to hear that. Like, I didn't realize people actually have the capability of saying that. I didn't know that people actually could physically come to terms and say, mentally come to terms and say, oh, I'm not going to vote. It doesn't do anything for me and my family. But they don't realize that it has everything to do with them and their family, and it's going to impact them and their future. And the idea of I'm not interested in making my community better, or I'm not interested in politics, is like saying, I don't care what happens to my healthcare, my security, my jobs, my community, my children, my future. That's what you're saying to me. So I hate this information that people spread around, and as long as I live, I'm going to fight that too.
Well, and I think there's a bit of a juxtaposition with accountability and responsibility. You talk about. I think a lot of those same people that my vote doesn't matter. They're also the same people that are going to put the responsibility on somebody else to take care of it.
Yes.
And so if you take ownership of your life, take ownership of your health, take ownership of your community.
Yeah.
This is my community. If this is because everything is for you, everything is for us. And if you have that mentality of this is mine, this is my house, you have that pride.
Right.
You
said it.
It really is totally different, and it's so easy. I've been in. I'm grateful. My dad ran a business for 46 years, and I worked with that, and we actually it was consumer electronics repair, and I remember my dad hired. I think I was 10 or 11. And I remember. He hired a couple guys from the Ukraine, a couple immigrants, and it was so neat watching these, because I'm a kid and I'm at the shop and everything, and there was this one guy, I cannot pronounce his name, we called him Leonard, and I don't know what the actual deal was, but dude had, I think it was a family of 5 or 6, wife was taking care of kids and everything, he's working, and dude is a hustler. And I think for 5 years, he came in and ate a hot dog for lunch every single day. And ended up, he saved enough money and he bought another business and started his own business. And it was that is what you would say the American drive and dream. But it just I don't know. It's just crazy. I think it's just nuts.
I agree. So. But, I think now that we're building this momentum and this community, it's important that whether using this platform and podcast, sharing what you know and see if you can impact someone else, and then bringing people in,
So what is your role now? What are you doing? What is this?
Future me. Now that I actually finally realized that I can actually make plans, I can actually create goals.
You're going to be around in 5 years.
Exactly. Yeah. I actually, I've left the city so many times. I talk about this story a lot because, like many young people, I didn't find myself here, and I think it was a result of not being welcomed.
Louisville is very cliquish. It's very segregated.
Yeah.
It is segregated by the choice of the people. I mean,
I can go on and talk
I don't
about
want to be negative about
No,
it.
but it's true, and I think we need to call it out. I'm going to call it out when something doesn't seem right, because I haven't seen this in other cities, in other metropolitan cities. Like,
I haven't either. It's weird.
It's very weird, and so
to be such an eclectic city that chooses to be this way. It's weird.
Yeah, I mean, you get judged based on where you live. This is ridiculous.
Right.
The moment you mention a neighborhood, you're now going to be...
you say you live on Preston Highway.
Oh,
you're labeled right away.
You're labeled. My goodness. But you live in the Highlands now. You're you're cool. And then now you live in East End versus West End. And
now you're rich. Now you got all the money. Yeah.
So it's just
crazy. Yeah.
It is crazy. And I never understood that. So for me...
Kids have that mentality and judgment.
Yes, because they hear this at home. And I'm not going to lie. It's something that's been probably... It's the parents' fault. I mean, and that's why we're creating a generation of... I talk to people all the time and they ask me where I live. And I just say I live in Louisville. I'm not going to say what neighborhood because I shouldn't have to say. And then I'll just mention random neighborhoods just to get people's mind and what they say. My goodness, I literally have done I could do a study of what people would say to me the moment I change the neighborhoods and where I live. I'm all sorts of things, from from probably white trash to who knows what. And that to me because I traveled the world, I traveled the States, I've seen so much, and I've seen what's good and what's bad. And I think the reason why I came back is that I want to change, and I know it's something I cannot do it alone, but I want to change how we perceive neighborhoods and how we treat people in different neighborhoods. Because I've met amazing people in every single neighborhood, but I also met really awful people in every single neighborhood. So we're not going to judge.
We're all the same.
We're all the same, right?
We have all the same problems everywhere.
Yeah, but the reason I want to go back to the reason why I left the city is because of this. I felt I lived in the Highlands for 10 years. I was helping people from different neighborhoods, and I was spent to a point where I no longer had anything in me to kind of fight back, and so I took some time and did some consulting work through the U.S. and then lived in Europe for a little bit. Only to find out that this was home. This was calling me, and my parents are here, my nieces, my nephews, my family's here, my friends, my community, my mentors. Everyone who I looked up to were here, and suddenly the moment was right for me to come back. And I said, well, what can I do now that I've gained some more knowledge, I've learned a couple things that I can share. What can I do to touch whatever mainstream I can? To make some impact. So I do a little bit, I like to label myself as a community builder. I'm a connector. Because of my job, I'm able to meet really amazing people who are doing incredible work in the nonprofit sector. And so that's been giving me doors to really find what's happening in our city and how can we close those gaps. We don't have to necessarily rely on our local government to do that. I think it's us to the people to change that. It's always been, because I think oftentimes we're always blaming our city councils are just whatever we can to blame, but we're not doing
nobody's responsibility, but
exactly,
and nobody is coming to save you.
So no one exactly.
And that's a good thing. That's not a bad thing.
It's not. It's not. And so I think it's important that now we recognize what's happening in the city, and then we can actually talk about it. And, with everything that's happening in the social media and these outlets, everyone has a voice. And once you start talking about it, you realize that people do follow and they want to learn more. So how can I share this message in a bigger spectrum? And that's why my long-term goal is to still be in the public and give back, but in whatever capacity I do that, whether it's in the public office or in the nonprofit sector, or I own a business or whatever that is, it's always going to be about the people in this community that I call home. It's never, I always feel like I've been given so much in life given second chance at life. I mean, just that alone is something that I need to repay, my rent, right, in this earth. And that's why I do what I do now. And it's hard. Yes, it's challenging. But nothing has ever changed my life the way that when I see younger generation actually their lives getting better and they're actually making goals and achieving those goals. And so now I thought, well, what can I do to make this bigger impact? How can I touch not just the refugees or immigrants or the underserved population, but I want to be able to have an impact on whoever needs that help. And so it's, again,
because there's a lot of domestic war zones that you have going on.
Yes, I'm glad you said the word domestic war zones, because it's exactly what it is.
Well, I mean, it's all relative. I mean, everybody, like I said, everybody's fighting an internal battle you know nothing about. And then you take that a step further and you put it in a familial setting that, I mean, gosh, nothing surprises me, and kids, gosh, if there's anything that can be a positive outlet or a safe place for kids to, or anything, I just think that's
I believe in the future generation. I believe in investing in our community. I do want to raise my children here. I don't want my kids to leave the city. I think that what was happening 20 years ago. You had this generation of recent graduates who just couldn't wait to leave, like myself.
But a lot of them came back.
But a lot of came back because they realized.
And that's why it's getting better.
I really
think it is.
Really, I want to take this momentum. I can see it, I can feel it in the people that I meet with, the people that I'm acquainted with, and the work that we're doing. It all leading up to the betterment of the community. And that's what we need to focus. It's just how do we make this community better so then we can continue, raise our kids, create just a healthy, I want to use the word equal too, but we're never going to probably achieve that in circumstances that we are. But just obviously be able to have everyone where they feel like the services are there for them and no one is going to, they can take advantage of resources.
I think that's funny how you say like the equal thing, because it's not, I don't think it's about being equal. I think because I think that comes down to what you put in it. But the opportunities are always there if you have the mentality to take advantage of it and get out of your own way in many cases.
I used to say the same thing. But everyone has 24 hours a day, right?
Well, no, I'm not saying that.
No, and I thought the same thing. I said, well, why can't you do? I did it,
Yeah, but
the mentality where I did it. Why can't you do that same thing? Is something that hurt me in the past, because I said I've been through hell. I've been through worse. And you can still,
But my hell is no different than your hell. It's different hell.
It's just hell. Now I realize that just because I went through hell, I don't want anyone else to go through hell. I don't think it should be difficult for people to access resources. But it's not as easy as we think. And I can say that.
No, it's definitely not as easy as we think.
And it's not. And it definitely has to come with equity, a neighborhood segregation. And I don't want to go into that because...
but the education of the process, because so many people judge the process, whatever, and I'm being very ambiguous with this.
Yeah.
But they've never been through it. They've never been exposed to it. And so it's a very blind, we have a system for that. It's fine. They can just go down and do that.
Right.
Whoever they is, whatever that is.
It's just
but you don't know what the hell you're talking about.
Exactly.
You've never done, you've never gone to whatever it is.
It's more than just
we
that
make it
step.
harder than it has to be.
Because, and I don't want to go into a whole nother level because it's all connected. But the reason why some people cannot get same resources that we can all get is because there's mental challenges.
You're talking just a language barrier issue.
Yeah,
causes so many problems.
So exactly.
Yeah.
So I do want to highlight that that's been the issues in the past. So it is not equal in a sense where, yes, they're free to do so, But
how do you
do it? Yeah.
Right.
So like the homeless population are like, well, they can go and get sleep on one of the home coalition for the homeless. Yes, there are beds, not enough, but there are some. But that person
don't get me started on homeless people trying to go get a bed somewhere, because that's a whole
Yes,
that's a whole messed up situation.
It is a messed up because people would think,
and it's so stupid.
It's so stupid, but they don't realize that person who's on the street, mentally is not. It's so challenging for him to even make that thought just to go to sleep in a bed, because now it's a whole nother level of knowledge that people don't know. And I hate that they say all these things about, and I talk about a lot about homeless because it's I'm very passionate about.
Mm-hmm. We're all like one or two bad decisions away from destitute.
And I was homeless. I was a refugee. Refugees are homeless for the time being.
Sure.
So I know what it's like not to have a home. I know what it's like to sleep on the streets. I've been there. I've never shared this with people, but I've been there. I know what it does to you mentally. It breaks you down. And if you don't have the resources and the tools to build yourself up, you're done. And that's what's happening with what's going on in the city right now. So I don't know. We can talk for days, but I figured.
No. This is. I really appreciate this conversation.
Yeah.
It's been really great, and those little things that you can inject in somebody's life, like I always say, be kind to everybody, be nice to everybody. You never know what that niceness is going to do for somebody that. Pay it forward, do something else, and you know what? If you have extra to give extra. Who cares what people do? It gives a crap.
Right?
It's not up to you to do that.
And sometimes
if you want to give.
That's it. Really, don't question. And that's what I want to.
And don't ask for anything
right back. Yes.
And don't give something that you can't afford to lose.
Exactly. So it really is lessons to be learned in this situation. I wish people took time to really, get the resources and share their resources. Just because I've read something about rights where everyone should have equal rights. It's not a pie, just because this person has.
I know what you're talking about. It's not pie.
It's not pie.
Yeah, we're not taking slices away from anybody.
Yeah, so I want people to really think of, use that analogy, use that pie. It's like, when you have a pie, you have 5 slices. Everyone's going to take a piece, and then you're not going to have anything left. But that's not what life is. Life is not a pie. Everyone should have. It said like less rights for them is
less rights for you more rights for someone else does not mean less rights for you. It's not pie.
I want a billboard. I swear, I want a billboard in our community for that, because it spoke volume to me. It spoke a lot to me, because I didn't realize. People think I don't want this to have this certain rights because it messes up with my rights.
Not in my backyard.
Not in my backyard. So, now we can go on to LGBTQ community and the whole ridiculously around that and how unfair the system is. But
you know what?
We can try.
The only thing I'm going to say on that is I don't know why we have to be defined on who we sleep with anyway. I don't think, why do you want it?
What does it bother you?
Have that label for yourself anyway. Who gives a shit? Who cares?
Yeah, you do whatever makes you happy.
There are no rules.
Rules. I know.
Where can people find you if they want to follow you on social media, if they want to connect with you?
I love connecting. I've been using my Facebook, sort of my main social media platform. That is just Antigona Mehani. I'd love to connect with people who are like-minded. But, I'm willing to, I appreciate everyone's opinion, and I will have a very educational conversation should it come.
So you're not one of those people that if you don't agree with them, then you don't exist, or you're against me. If you're not for me, you're against me. Is that
right? No, I don't. I think that's unfair.
Let's just talk about stuff.
Yeah, talk about. If you are willing to listen, I'd love to help you with, and I'd love to be educated on too. There's so many things that I've accepted that I didn't know, and I've learned from it. And as a result, I'm a better person of that because of that. And so I do welcome those challenging questions, and I think this is me preparing for my next role in life, and whether I run for mayor, soon or for any public office. I want people to know that I am an open book in the sense where I have an open door, and community is what I believe in, and community is my religion, my institution, and I am who I am because of the way I grew up in this community.
Community is everything.
Everything.
We are all products of our environment.
Yeah. And again, I do welcome anyone who is willing to listen, to have a conversation that's thought provoking. I think it's challenging, but it teaches us how to accept.
Hard conversations are hard, but they're always good.
Oh, so good.
I mean, they're really are always good.
Yeah, and I want to build. I just want to live.
And you know what? Nobody ever got killed with a conversation.
No one.
You can talk about stuff all day long, and we can just walk away.
Exactly. And I think I got my degree in political science, and I used to get this from my professor the whole time, like never discuss politics with family and friends, or and then of course not with your bosses. And I realized that you're going to hear things from people that are going to have completely different opinions and just observation on how things are working and what's going on in the community. But I think, if you have the tolerance to listen and to build an idea why that person has the mentality, I think that's how we can be better at accepting. Everyone is, again, we all hear this, everyone's entitled to their own opinion. Yes. But when you spread false information, that's when it gets dangerous. And so I think it's up to people that have the facts and have the knowledge to talk about it.
You know what the wonderful thing about the truth is?
Yeah.
The truth doesn't give a shit whether you believe it or not.
Yeah.
The
it always
truth
comes
doesn't
up.
need your validation.
Right.
It's there no matter what. And that's a funny thing with belief and opinion, where we get all caught up that, everything is an opinion. Anything that anybody speaks pretty much is an opinion.
And then they're willing to, because they believe it's so strong that now they're going to try to instill that on you.
I don't think it's that they believe it so strongly. I think it's that they don't know that they just don't know what they believe.
And so now they're like, well, you should believe the same thing as I believe. And I think that's when we can, it's funny how everything I'm saying, it starts a new conversations, because now we can talk about religion. We will be here for sure. But again, just I guess my message to whoever's listening is just to really be kind and respect one another. Help someone today.
Yeah.
Do one kind gesture, just like one small act of kindness, whatever, and volunteer. It changes your life.
It does. Service and giving back will make your life so much
It's
better.
actually scientifically proven. It gives you better. It get more dopamine and adrenaline from than doing other things.
Well,
So
there you go. Yeah. Well, Antigona, this has been an awesome conversation.
Oh, thank you so much.
Very, very
I
good.
enjoyed. I love that we were able to talk about anything, and I think that's what for me has been my life. It's just been anything and everything. So
we're all everything's important, and I love it when there's people that are helping usher people into understanding and navigating and helping them be productive, because we all have a purpose. We're all put here to do something. We just have to figure it out somehow, and be open to seeing it. Because
acceptance is everything when it comes to
absolutely. Well, we'll put your links, to contact and everything in
Facebook right now, and my LinkedIn, just my name, Antigona Mehani, and I'm working on my website, which I will have really cool content of community engagements.
Do you have a domain for that yet?
It should be Antigona 502.
Okay.
I figured, this is my city, this is my home.
Heck yeah.
And so I will announce that, but I want to be able to share stories of success and how one can make an impact, and so that website will be able to focus on that.
I love it. Well, thank you so much for coming in.
Thank you so much.
Thank you everybody for listening, and we'll check back with you soon. Thanks.
Thank you so much for listening. We appreciate your attention, and we hope that something we've said will inspire you to do something great, or just get through the day if that's what you need. Remember this: every person that you encounter is fighting an internal battle that you know nothing about. Always be kind. You never know when you'll encounter someone that needs it. For more tips to live a better, more successful life, head over to yeslouisville.com and wander around.